Everyone faces suffering in life, but usually not for the reasons they initially think. Most people blame it on outside forces, the circumstances around them, the actions of others, or tough situations they encounter. Yet the Buddha shared a deeper wisdom. Pain is unavoidable, while suffering remains optional. Pain is just the event itself. Suffering emerges from the stories we layer on top of it. The clinging, the resistance, the rejection of what reality truly presents. It's not existence that ultimately crushes you. It's your rigid hold on how things should turn out. In this video, we'll explore 10 harsh truths that may be tough to face initially, but accepting them can liberate you from unnecessary pain, bringing back true clarity, calm, and inner strength. Let's dive in. Lesson 1. No one is responsible for your happiness. Most of us live like beggars in the streets of our own lives, holding out a bowl and waiting for someone else to drop in a coin of validation or a scrap of affection. We believe that if our partner would only change, if our boss would finally notice us, or if our family would truly understand our pain, we would finally be whole. We hand the keys to our inner sanctuary to people who are just as lost, tired, and burdened as we are. The Buddha taught that self-reliance is the only true path to freedom, famously stating, "Be a lamp unto yourself." This ancient wisdom reveals that suffering is not caused by the actions of others, but by the story we build around those actions, the expectation that they should fill a void that only we can fill. When we stop expecting the world to provide what it does not possess, we reclaim our emotional responsibility. This shift does not mean closing your heart. It means realizing that while others can share in your joy, they cannot be the source of it. Imagine your happiness is like a deep underground well. Many people spend their lives trying to pipe in water from distant lakes, from their friends, their spouse, or their social status. But lakes can dry up and pipes can break. When the water stops flowing, they find themselves parched and desperate. The Buddha's path invites you to dig your own well. It is hard work and the soil may be rocky, but once you reach the source, you have a spring of peace that flows from within, independent of the weather or the seasons of the outside world. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. Ask yourself, how much of my daily energy is spent waiting for someone else to notice my sadness or fix my mood? How often do I collapse or feel betrayed simply because someone else acted according to their own struggles rather than my needs? To reclaim your power, practice the pause of responsibility whenever you feel let down. When someone fails to text back or misses your cues for support, do not spiral into a narrative of rejection. Instead, pause, place your hand over your heart and say, "My happiness lives inside me." Not in their approval, not in their presence, not in their behavior. Do this daily to stop giving your peace away so easily. There is an old story of two monks traveling together who encountered a woman unable to cross a muddy river. The elder monk picked her up, carried her across, and set her down. Miles later, the younger monk, visibly upset, finally burst out, "As monks, we are not supposed to touch women. Why did you do that?" The elder monk smiled and replied, "I set her down by the river hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" Like the younger monk, we often carry the weight of what others do or don't do for us, dragging their behavior across miles of our own life. When you accept this harsh truth, you become steadier and stronger. You stop being a victim of the unpredictable moods of others. This clarity brings a profound sense of peace because your worth is no longer up for debate. It is a fact you have established within yourself. Let your mantra this year be, "I own my joy, I choose my peace, I fill my heart." As you move through 2025, remember that you are the architect of your own serenity. By letting go of the demand for others to save you, you finally find the strength to save yourself. Lesson 2. Life will not go the way you plan. We spend our entire lives meticulously drafting a script for our future, convincing ourselves that if we just work hard enough, life will follow the stage directions we've written. We build mental monuments to our 5-year plans, our ideal relationships, and our career milestones. But when the universe goes off script, we don't just feel disappointed, we feel broken. The truth is, life is not a roadmap we draw. It is a river we must learn to navigate. The Buddha taught that the root of all suffering is attachment, specifically our attachment to how we believe life should unfold. He observed that the universe is governed by anicca, or impermanence, meaning everything is in a constant state of fluid, unpredictable shift. Suffering begins the moment we insist that reality must match our personal timeline. When we fight this natural flow, we are not fighting bad luck or failure. We are fighting the very nature of existence. Imagine you are trying to cross a vast ocean in a small boat. You have a fixed destination and a rigid map. When the winds change or a storm appears, you drop your anchor and try to hold your ground, screaming at the sky because the weather didn't check your itinerary. The anchor doesn't stop the storm. It only causes your boat to sink under the tension. Wisdom is learning to pull up the anchor and adjust your sails. The storm isn't a personal attack. It is simply the ocean being the ocean. Take a moment to reflect on the moments that hurt you most deeply in the past year. Ask yourself, was it the event itself that caused the most pain? Or was it the crushing gap between my expectations and the reality that arrived? How much of your current anxiety comes from trying to force a future that hasn't happened yet? Whenever your plans collapse or a surprise obstacle appears, do not immediately react with resistance. Instead, practice the sacred pause. Take a deep breath, unclench your jaw, and say to yourself, "This too is part of the path." This simple phrase shifts your mind from a state of combat to a state of acceptance, allowing you to move with reality rather than against it. There is a story of a young man who came to a monk, distraught because his business had failed and his wedding had been called off. "My life is ruined," he cried. "Nothing went as planned." The monk led him to a garden and pointed to a winding stream. "Does the water complain when it hits a rock?" the monk asked. "No, it simply finds a new way around." The monk explained that the man's life wasn't ruined. It was simply moving in a different direction. By letting go of the old life, the man was finally free to inhabit the new one that was actually happening. When you soften your grip on how life should be, you stop experiencing life as a series of failures and start experiencing it as a series of moments. You gain a profound resilience and a quiet strength. You find peace not by controlling the wind, but by becoming the kind of person who knows how to sail in any weather. Remember that a plan is just a guess, but acceptance is a superpower. Freedom is waiting for you the moment you stop demanding that life be anything other than what it is. Lesson 3. People treat you based on their mind, not your worth. We walk through the world wearing an invisible armor made of other people's opinions. When someone praises us, we feel radiant. But when someone is cold, critical, or dismissive, we instantly shrink, questioning our intelligence, our appearance, and our very right to exist. We have fallen into the painful illusion that other people's behavior is a direct mirror of our value. The truth is much harsher, yet infinitely more liberating. People do not see you as you are. They see you as they are. The Buddha taught a liberating truth. When people speak or act, they are only revealing the contents of their own mind. Their actions are a manifestation of their own karma and their current level of consciousness. If a person is full of internal storms, they will offer you lightning. This wisdom teaches us the art of emotional detachment, not from love, but from the false belief that our identity depends on the reactions of those around us. Imagine you are a pure, brilliant light. Other people are like windows made of stained glass. One person's window is clouded with the dust of old fears, another's is tinted red with anger, another is fractured by past trauma. When your light passes through them, the colors they project onto the floor aren't your colors. They are the colors of the glass. You are not the muddy brown or the jagged red. You are the light that remains unchanged by the medium it passes through. Take a moment to reflect on a recent time someone was unkind or distant toward you. Ask yourself, am I reacting to who I am, or am I reacting to the storm that lives inside them? How much of your vital energy is being wasted trying to fix a reflection in a mirror that isn't even yours to hold? Whenever someone's behavior triggers a feeling of unworthiness, use the internal boundary practice. Pause, breathe, and silently say, "This is their mind, not my value." This creates instant emotional distance. By labeling their behavior as a product of their inner world, you stop personalizing their pain and keep your peace intact. There is a famous teaching of the Buddha where a man came to him and began shouting insults, furious at the Buddha's influence. The Buddha listened in silence. When the man finished, the Buddha asked, "If you buy a gift for someone, and that person does not accept it, to whom does the gift belong? The man replied, "It belongs to me." The Buddha smiled and said, "In the same way, I do not accept your abuse. It remains with you." Like the Buddha, we must realize that we do not have to accept the delivery of someone else's anger or judgment. When you master this truth, you gain a sense of unshakable clarity. You stop trying to win approval from people who are incapable of seeing you clearly. You move through the world with resilience, knowing that while you cannot control the wind, the moods of others, you are the master of your own sails. In 2026, let your self-worth be a kingdom that no one else has the coordinates to invade. When you stop confusing someone else's pain with your identity, you are finally truly free. Lesson 4. You will lose everything eventually. We live our lives as if we are building a fortress that will stand forever, amassing possessions, titles, and relationships like stones in a wall. We grip our youth, our health, and our loved ones so tightly that our knuckles turn white, terrified of the day the grip must loosen. But the harshest reality of existence is that everything you love will eventually change, fade, or be lost. Not because life is cruel, but because impermanence is the very fabric of the world. The Buddha taught that everything that rises will fall. He observed that we suffer not because things end, but because we desperately expect them not to. This concept, known as anicca, reminds us that we never truly own anything. We are simply fortunate enough to experience it for a time. By accepting that the end is baked into the beginning, we stop fighting the nature of reality and start appreciating the beauty of the temporary. Imagine a monk meticulously creating a mandala out of colored sand. For days, he places every grain with perfect precision, creating a masterpiece of vibrant geometry. But the moment it is finished, he wipes it all away with a single sweep of his hand. He does not weep, because he knew from the first grain that the beauty was in the process, not the permanence. Life is a sand mandala. Its value lies in its brilliance while it exists, not in its ability to last forever. Take a moment to reflect on the things you hold most dear. Ask yourself, am I loving these things as if I own them, or as if I am borrowing them from the universe? How much of your current grief is actually a resistance to the natural cycle of birth and death? Practice grateful presence throughout your day. When you are with someone you love, be truly with them, recognizing they are a temporary gift. When you enjoy a moment of joy, do not rush through it, expand into it, and say quietly to yourself, "This moment is a gift. I don't own it. I can only appreciate it." There is a story of a woman named Kisa Gotami who lost her only child. Drowned in grief, she asked the Buddha for medicine to bring him back. The Buddha told her to find a single mustard seed from a house where no one had ever lost a loved one. She searched every home, but in every house she found a story of a lost parent, child, or friend. She realized that death and loss are universal. Returning to the Buddha, she found peace not because her child returned, but because she realized she was not alone in her impermanence. When you stop fighting impermanence, loss no longer has the power to destroy you. It deepens you. You begin to live more fully, loving without the suffocating weight of possessiveness. Acceptance brings a profound sense of freedom and a heart that is wide open to the present moment. Let the truth of impermanence make your life sweeter, not bitter. When you accept that nothing lasts, every moment becomes a precious, once-in-a-lifetime miracle. Lesson 5. Your mind creates most of your suffering. For most of us, the greatest battlefield we will ever face isn't found in the world outside, but in the 6 inches between our ears. We believe we are suffering because of a difficult boss, a dwindling bank account, or a broken heart. But these are often just the sparks. The true forest fire is the story our mind builds around them, the endless what-ifs, the self-criticism, and the catastrophic predictions that multiply our pain. It is not life that breaks you, it is your grip on how life should be. The Buddha revealed a profound psychological truth. Nothing can harm you as much as your own thoughts. He taught that while pain is an inevitable part of the human experience, suffering is entirely optional. Pain is the physical or situational event that occurs, but suffering is the resistance, the clinging, and the mental narrative we wrap around that event. In the Buddhist tradition, we learn that reality is often neutral, but the mind adds layers of judgment that turn a simple moment into a crisis. The Buddha described this through the metaphor of the two arrows. Imagine you are struck by an arrow. This is the initial pain of life, an event you cannot control. However, most people then strike themselves with a second arrow. This second arrow is the mental reaction. Why did this happen to me? It's not fair. Everything is ruined. The first arrow causes physical pain, but the second arrow, the one you fire at yourself, is the one that creates the lasting agony of suffering. Take a moment to reflect on your current anxieties. Ask yourself, how much of my energy goes into fighting the actual problem, and how much goes into the exhausting story I am telling myself about the problem? Take a moment to see if you are merging with your thoughts as if they were absolute facts. Whenever your mind begins to spiral into fear or judgment, practice the observer shift. Pause and silently say to yourself, this is just a thought, not the truth. Instead of arguing with the thought or trying to push it away, watch it the way you would watch a cloud drifting across the sky. By simply observing the mind rather than becoming it, you strip the narrative of its power to hurt you. There is a story of a monk who was meditating in a dark cave when he suddenly saw a massive, coiled snake in the corner. His heart raced, his breath grew shallow, and he spent the entire night paralyzed by the thought of his impending death. When the sun rose and light finally entered the cave, he realized the snake was merely a coiled piece of old rope. The rope had no power to kill him, yet his mind had spent hours creating the very real suffering of terror. Most of the snakes we fear in our lives are simply ropes we haven't seen clearly yet. When you stop merging with your thoughts, your inner world becomes a place of stillness rather than a storm. You gain a sense of clarity that allows you to respond to life's challenges with strength instead of reacting with fear. Peace begins the moment your mind becomes quieter, giving you the freedom to choose your response to any situation. Remember that you are the master of the storyteller, not a victim of the story. By accepting that your mind creates your suffering, you finally hold the key to your own liberation. Lesson 6. You cannot change or fix other people. We often treat the people we love like unfinished projects, believing that if we could just find the right words, the right argument, or the right amount of pressure, we could finally fix their flaws. We pour our life force into trying to mold others into the version of them we think they should be, only to end up exhausted, resentful, and alone. The harsh truth is that you are not the architect of anyone else's soul. Everyone is walking their own path, carrying their own burdens that only they can decide to set down. The Buddha taught that everyone is the owner of their own actions and the heir to their own karma. This fundamental concept of self-reliance emphasizes that true transformation must come from within. While we can offer compassion and guidance, we cannot do the work of awakening for another person. Suffering arises when we try to take emotional responsibility for someone else's growth, failing to realize that their behavior is a reflection of their own mind and emotional wounds, not our lack of effort. Think of a person's growth like the development of a giant bamboo tree. For years, you can water it, provide sunlight, and clear the soil, but you cannot force the shoot to break the surface of the earth. If you try to pull the sprout up with your own hands to make it grow faster, you will only break it. The growth happens in its own time, powered by its own internal roots. You are merely the gardener. You are not the force of life itself. Take a moment to reflect on your most taxing relationships. Ask yourself, how much of my daily energy goes into managing someone else's choices or worrying about their mistakes? Take a moment to consider if you are trying to win a battle that isn't yours to fight. Practice compassionate detachment. When you feel the urge to intervene or fix someone's behavior, pause and mentally say, I love you, but I cannot walk your path for you. This year, try journaling your core values and focus your energy solely on your own actions for 10 minutes each morning. By returning the responsibility of their life to them, you reclaim the peace of your own. A young man once came to a monk complaining bitterly that his brother was lazy and refused to change his ways despite years of advice. The monk handed the man a heavy stone and told him to hold it at arm's length. After several minutes, the man's arm began to shake with pain. When will my brother change so I can put this stone down? The man asked. The monk replied, the stone does not belong to your brother. It is your own desire to change him. You can put it down whenever you choose. When you accept that you cannot fix others, a massive weight lifts from your shoulders. You move from a state of constant frustration to one of profound clarity and freedom. Your relationships often improve because they are no longer based on pressure, but on genuine acceptance. You find the strength to focus on the only person you truly have the power to transform, yourself. Stop being the sculptor of other people's lives and start being the master of your own. When you stop trying to fix the world, you finally find the peace to live in it. Lesson 7. Closure is a gift you give yourself. We often live our lives in a state of emotional suspended animation, waiting for an apology that will never arrive or an explanation that will never make sense. We believe that closure is a key held by the person who hurt us. And until they turn that key, we are locked in a room of resentment and why. The harsh truth is that waiting for someone else to provide closure is like staying in a burning house because you're waiting for the person who started the fire to come back and put it out. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is attachment, not just to people or things, but to specific outcomes and the scripts we believe life should follow. When we demand closure from another, we are clinging to a reality that does not exist, refusing to let the current moment be what it is. True peace comes through the practice of detachment, realizing that our inner state cannot be dependent on the unpredictable actions or words of others. Closure isn't a conversation you have with someone else. It is a decision you make within your own heart to stop fighting with the past. Imagine you are holding a cracked and broken jar. You spend all your energy trying to glue the shards back together, hoping that if you can just fix it, the water of your peace won't leak out. But the jar is already shattered. Closure is not successfully fixing the jar. Closure is finally opening your hand and letting the shards fall to the ground. It is the moment you stop trying to make the broken thing whole and realize that you can simply walk away from the mess. Take a moment to reflect on the unfinished stories in your life. Ask yourself, how much of my vital energy is being wasted waiting for a sorry that may never come? Take a moment to consider, what if you never get the answers you want? Would you still choose to remain in pain? Practice the final chapter exercise. Set aside 10 minutes to journal the story of your hurt as if you were the author of a book. Write down exactly what happened, then write the words. And here, the story ends. Do not wait for a new character to enter or for a dialogue to resolve. Decide that the silence of the other person is your answer. Acceptance is not giving up. It is choosing peace over resistance. A young monk once approached his teacher, distressed because he had been insulted by a traveler and couldn't stop thinking about it. "I need him to understand how much he hurt me," the monk cried. The teacher picked up a heavy wooden staff and told the monk to hold it out in front of him. "How long must I hold this?" the monk asked as his arms grew weary. The teacher replied, "Until you realize that the man who insulted you has already walked over the mountain. You are the only one still holding the staff." The monk let go, and the staff and his suffering hit the floor. When you reclaim the power to grant yourself closure, you experience an immediate return of clarity and strength. You stop being a victim of someone else's silence and become the master of your own narrative. This shift brings a profound sense of freedom. You are no longer waiting for permission to move on. Your peace becomes something no one can take from you. In 2026, do not wait for a door to be closed for you. Have the courage to walk through it and close it yourself. Your healing is not a joint venture. It is your divine right. Lesson 8. Avoidance of pain. Prolonged suffering. We live in a culture designed to help us run away from ourselves. At the first sign of emotional discomfort, boredom, loneliness, or sadness, we reach for our phones, we work late, or we look for any distraction to numb the sting. We treat pain like an intruder to be locked out, but the more we bar the door, the louder the intruder knocks. The harsh truth is that what you resist persists. By running from the sting of reality, you turn a momentary wound into a lifelong haunting. The Buddha identified aversion as one of the 3 poisons that trap us in the cycle of samsara. He taught that suffering is not caused by the presence of pain, but by our desperate struggle to push it away. This wisdom is central to the 4 Noble Truths. We must acknowledge that suffering exists before we can ever hope to be free from it. When we stop trying to outrun our discomfort, we find that the pain itself is often far smaller than the mountain of anxiety we built while trying to avoid it. Imagine the beautiful lotus flower. It does not grow in a pristine, filtered garden. It grows in the thick, dark, and uncomfortable mud at the bottom of a pond. If the lotus tried to avoid the mud, if it refused to touch the darkness, it would never reach the surface to bloom in the sun. Your pain is that mud. It is the very soil required for your spiritual awakening. Avoiding the mud doesn't make you cleaner. It only prevents you from ever blooming. Take a moment to reflect on your habits of distraction. Ask yourself, what am I trying not to feel right now? How much of your energy goes into keeping your mind busy just so you don't have to sit with the silence of your own heart? Practice radical sitting. Set a timer for 10 minutes today. Sit in silence with no phone, no music, and no agenda. When an uncomfortable emotion arises, anxiety, grief, or frustration, do not try to fix it or distract yourself. Simply name it. Say, I feel fear, or I feel loneliness. By naming the monster, you realize it has no teeth. You are proving to your nervous system that you are strong enough to handle the present moment. A young monk once lived in a monastery that he felt was too noisy and chaotic for his meditation. He fled to a cave in the high mountains, seeking total silence. But in the cave, he found the sound of dripping water drove him mad. He moved to the forest, but the wind in the trees kept him awake. Finally, an elder monk told him, "You are not running from noise. You are running from your own mind. You could sit in the middle of a battlefield and find peace if you stop fighting the sounds." The young monk returned to the monastery and found that once he stopped avoiding the chaos no longer had the power to disturb him. When you stop avoiding pain, you regain your life. You develop a diamond-like resilience, a clarity that comes from knowing that no emotion is a death sentence. You find a deep, quiet joy that doesn't depend on everything being perfect, but on your ability to be present for whatever life brings. Remember this, have the courage to stand your ground. The moment you stop running, you will realize the very things you feared were the keys to your freedom. Lesson 9. Your reputation is outside of your control. We spend an exhausting amount of time curating a version of ourselves to present to the world, like an artist desperately touching up a portrait that will never be finished. We obsess over being liked, being understood, and being seen for who we truly are. But here's the harsh reality. You can be the kindest, most honest person on earth, and someone will still perceive you as a villain. Your reputation isn't actually yours. It is a collection of stories held in the minds of others. Stories you have no power to edit. The Buddha spoke of the 8 worldly winds: pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, and fame and disrepute. He taught that these winds blow on everyone, but the wise person remains like a mountain, unshaken by the gust of a compliment or the storm of a rumor. To seek a good reputation is to build your house on shifting sands. When we realize that other people's opinions are filtered through their own biases, insecurities, and limited perspectives, we stop seeking their validation and return to the only thing we truly own, our integrity. Imagine you are a clear, still pond. When someone throws a stone of criticism or a petal of praise into your waters, it creates ripples. Those ripples are your reputation, distortions of your surface that move outward. If you try to chase the ripples to smooth them out, you only create more turbulence. You cannot control how the water ripples once the stone is thrown. All you can do is remain deep, vast, and still at your center. The ripples do not change the nature of the water. They are merely temporary movements on the surface. Take a moment to reflect on your social interactions. Ask yourself, how much of my speech and behavior is a performance designed to manage what others think of me? Ask yourself, if I knew for a fact that I could never change their mind about me, how would I act differently today? Practice the value alignment check. Each morning, choose 3 priorities or core values that represent your highest self, such as kindness, focus, or honesty. At the end of the day, judge your success based on whether you live those values, not on how many people smiled at you or liked your posts. By shifting your scorecard from external praise to internal integrity, you build a foundation that no one can take away. There is a story of a Zen master named Hakuin who was falsely accused by a young girl of fathering her child. The townspeople were furious and spat upon him, calling him a disgrace. Hakuin simply said, "Is that so?" He took the child and cared for it for a year, his reputation completely ruined. Later, the girl confessed the truth. The real father was a local soldier. When the townspeople came to apologize and take the child back, Hakuin simply said, "Is that so?" He wasn't attached to being a hero or a villain. He was only attached to his own peace and the truth of his actions. When you accept that your reputation is outside of your control, you gain a terrifying but beautiful freedom. You stop being a prisoner of other people's expectations. This brings a profound sense of resilience. You can walk through a crowd of critics and a crowd of fans with the same steady heart, knowing that your worth is not a vote held by the public, but a truth held by yourself. Let your mantra this year be, "I know myself, I release the image, I act with truth." Stop trying to be the perfect version of yourself in someone else's story. When you give up the fight to control your reputation, you finally have the energy to build a life you actually love. Lesson 10. Being right is not the same as being at peace. We live in an age of digital battlefields and dinner table debates, where the ego's greatest hunger is to be proven correct. We will sacrifice our sleep, our relationships, and our sanity just to hear the words, "You were right." We treat every disagreement like a court case we must win, unaware that while we are busy winning the argument, we are losing our life's quietude. The harsh truth is that you can either be right or you can be free, but you can rarely be both at the same time. The Buddha taught that the wise man has no opinions. This does not mean he lacks intelligence, but rather that he lacks attachment to his views. In Buddhist philosophy, the thirst for views, ditthana, is a subtle form of craving that leads directly to suffering. When we cling to our rightness, we are actually clinging to a rigid version of the self. By practicing right speech and right mindfulness, we learn that the truth does not need our aggressive defense. It simply is. Wisdom is the ability to let go of the need for others to see the truth as you see it. Imagine you are playing a game of tug-of-war against a giant machine. You are pulling with all your might, your muscles screaming, and your palms bleeding because you believe that if you just pull hard enough, the machine will admit defeat and move to your side. But the rope is actually a burning fuse. The longer you hold on to win, the more you are burned. Peace is not found in winning the tug-of-war. Peace is found in simply opening your hands and dropping the rope. The moment the rope hits the ground, the tension vanishes, and you are finally still. Take a moment to reflect on your last major argument. Ask yourself, how much of my energy went into defending my ego, and how much went into seeking a resolution? Ask yourself, was the heavy, hollow feeling in my chest after winning worth the price of the connection I just fractured? Practice the 5-second silence. When you feel the hot surge of a correction rising in your throat during a conversation, wait 5 seconds before speaking. In that gap, ask yourself, does this need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said right now? Choose 3 priorities each morning and let one of them be choosing harmony over validation. By consciously choosing not to correct someone on a trivial matter, you build the muscle of inner peace. A young monk once ran to his master, frustrated by a villager who insisted the moon was made of silver. "Master, I told him it is just rock and dust, but he refuses to listen. He is wrong." The master looked up at the moon and said, "You are right." The monk felt satisfied, but then the master added, "And he is at peace." The monk realized that in his quest to prove the villager wrong, he had become agitated and angry, while the wrong villager was still enjoying the beauty of the night sky. The master showed him that his rightness had become his prison. When you give up the need to be right, you reclaim a massive amount of cognitive and emotional energy. You find that you can listen to others with genuine curiosity rather than defensive preparation. This leads to a life of profound fulfillment and resilience, where your happiness is no longer threatened by someone else's misunderstanding. You gain the freedom to exist in a world of diverse perspectives without losing your center. Let your mantra this year be, I release the ego, I choose the silence, I value my peace. As we conclude our journey through these 10 truths for 2025, remember that the goal of the spiritual path is not to be a perfect person, but a peaceful one. The truth may sting, but in that sting is the spark of your ultimate liberation.